Hey folks, and welcome to another Odd Artworks. I'm Duane Moore, artist and illustrator, and today I'm going to take a little break from my exhibition work and do something a bit different and a bit fun. It's no secret on this channel, I love fantasy artwork, so it should come as a little surprise that I also have a soft spot for Dungeons and Dragons. Though the artwork in pretty much any D&D book is stunning, just one or two of the monster or character designs don't quite hit it for me. Just to be clear, I love the art and it's all rendered amazingly well, just some things don't match what I have in my head. This week I'm going to try and redesign the D&D Goblin. The humble Goblin, a staple of fantasy and just about every D&D game I've ever played. In pop culture they've been represented in tons of different ways, from cutesy chaotic fun Muppets in Labyrinth to messed up mutants in the Hobbit movies, and fun big-nosed little green monsters across all manner of games, books, TV, films and animations. So this is the illustration we get in D&D. It's not really what I thought a goblin would look like. I don't know, this chap just seems a bit too serious, less mischievous I suppose. The description says that goblins are short and weak when alone, but tend to gather in large numbers so they come across a bit tougher. They are black-hearted and crave power. They often keep rodents and sometimes ride wolves. The stat block says they have leather armour, carry a scimitar, a shield and a short bow. Okay, so when I said about this, I didn't realise how tricky this was going to be, and in hindsight I can now totally see why the D&D Goblin looks the way that he does. In my initial sketches and little kind of doodles to get an idea, I realised very quickly it's quite difficult to do something that hasn't been done before. So I started thinking about it in a slightly different way. I started to think, okay, well, where do goblins live? You know, it was quite clear in the description that they hang around with bats and wolves and rodents and things like that. So I redesigned his head first and started to think about how it could perhaps be more bat-like. So I had a few ideas about that until I was happy. And then his body, I felt like the illustration in D&D made him a bit too chunky. So I just made his arms really skinny and gave him quite big wrists and forearms in comparison to the rest of it. The other big thing I thought that was quite important was to make sure that I had my character in a similar pose to the one that's in the book, just to see if I could make the character work in that position, and also carrying the gear that the character is described to have. Though I did look up a scimitar because I wasn't entirely sure what one looked like. And that was quite a fancy sword, so I decided to make my goblin's scimitar a bit knackered and broken, because they are kind of scavengers and just opportunists, so I imagine he's been carrying this for a while. And his shield, I wanted it to kind of just be a makeshift thing that perhaps he's just pulled a chunk off a fence or a door or something. You know, I like that goblins are quite resourceful in that regard. As always with my drawings, this is really just where I solve any problems. I'm less worried about getting a finished artwork because I know I'm going to turn this into an acrylic painting. So really I'm just trying to solve any issues I'm going to have, make sure the pose is clear, the silhouette works, so I can move on comfortably to the painting stage. Once I am happy with the drawing, I scan it in and print it off. I cover the back in graphite and transfer it to my painting surface, which in this case is some board. I then seal it with some fixative, let it dry, and then I'm ready to start painting. So now the painting is on the board, I begin by doing my values, just deciding what's going to be light and what's going to be dark, and I do this with a burnt sienna. Sometimes I do it with different colours, but because at the time I was thinking the goblin's skin was going to be kind of a green, I wanted to create a bit of warmth in there. So that's why I chose burnt sienna for this to begin with. I don't suppose it matters what colour you use because, you know, I'm going to paint over this, so really it's just a guide, and I can be quite messy with this, so, you know, I'm not precious. It doesn't matter if I go over the lines a little bit. So yeah, you know, it's kind of a fun process, this bit. So this next part might look a little bit strange. I cover a whole background in a yellowish colour because I'm going to paint blue over the top of it, as you can see. And I just don't want that blue to come across as too cold, so I paint quite roughly and it allows some of that yellow to sort of bleed through it a little bit. So I was fairly sure I knew what I was doing colour-wise with this fellow once I'd solved the whole bat-like face thing and the skinny arms, and I think I'd decided it was the coloration of the D&D Goblin that I wasn't a big fan of. But it turns out as soon as I started painting him a greenish colour, it just started to look a little generic and not really different, so I can totally see why the D&D Goblin is the colour that they are. They're kind of a tan colour. I kept the red eyes, I thought that was quite in keeping. So my solution to not putting a tan skin on is when I put all of the green down for the Goblin's base coat, I went over it, as you'll see in a moment, with quite an aggressive orange, which gave the Goblin a bit more of an inhuman feel, which is what I was shooting for. I was trying to make the Goblin recognisable as a Goblin, but also its own thing at the same time. The ears I made quite fleshy and see-through, so that's why they're quite pink. So one of the things I've learnt in this kind of little challenge is how difficult it is to create something totally new and recognisable as a Goblin, basically. So my hat is well and truly off to the D&D concept art team, because man, it is hard to try and make a standard well-known fantasy monster look unique to your property, but also still recognisable as something that belongs to that particular type of monster. So yeah, now you can see the kind of aggressive orange going on, and I started to feel a lot better about things then. So I'm going to keep quiet now so you can enjoy the rest of my troubled renderings of this redesign of the D&D Goblin. So that's the Goblin just about finished. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like and please subscribe to the channel. Would you like to see me tackle any more monsters from D&D or other things? Let me know in the comments below. And with that, I will see you all next time. Take it easy, folks. Bye now.